All right. Welcome everyone. It's so good to see happy faces. I am Jim Hamblin is my name. I'm a football coach, English teacher by trade. But come this next September, I will begin my 22nd year working in academics with athletics. Okay, like I said, that's just a quick me. Jason Ayu is here as well. He's the real presenter. He'll say what he wants to about himself in a few minutes. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to begin just by giving you a little background of where we fit in regards to educating student athletes at the university. Okay, you hit that first one. Okay. 21 years ago. Okay, 21 years ago, there were still the same 600 plus, just over 600 student athletes in the athletic department. At that time, maybe 5 full-time people involved. Okay, I was one of them. Our director, EJ, Sandy was here back in those days. A sports psychologist guy, Ron, Jimmy. There was probably 5 or 6 full-time people who quite honestly looked over the academics of all of 600 student athletes, okay, and all the things that go involved with that. Now, currently, we are housed now in what's called the Built for Life Student Athlete Academic Center, and as you can see above it, the group that's serving those students to support them in their academic endeavors it's quite a bit bigger. We have a senior associate athletic director who's in charge of the entire center, 2 assistant athletic directors that are in charge of academics of football and Olympic sports, respectively. In addition to that, we have a number of support people, from mental strength coaches to psychologists and therapists. Now, granted, it's not lost on us that we have a unique situation where some of these people actually come from, CAPS, for example. We borrow from CAPS for some of our mental health help right there. A full-time person from financial aid is part of what we do as well. And in addition to that, our wellness coordinator, and there's two other athletic directors involved, one involved with diversity and inclusion, and then Built for Life student experience athletic director as well. So that's how we have tried to create a center to fully support the unique subset of students that we have who happen to do athletics at the university. Jump to the next one, okay? But then click it once more, okay? Why do we do this though? Because in some ways, it might be seen as overkill, okay? All those services are available on campus. We've tried to put them all together to be something very very close and efficient for the student athletes. Why do we do that? Well, click once more if you would, my good man. Actual NCAA bylaw 16.3.1 reads like this, where universities are actually required, if they're going to have student athletes on campus, they're required to make some services available to the student athletes. And then as you read the second half of it, in addition, an institution, conference, or NCAA may finance other academic support, career counseling, personal development services that support the success of the student athlete. That's our hope of when we say the student athlete, the Built for Life. That whole term Built for Life it's not lost on us as just a slogan. Really, the hope is to prepare these young men and young women for life and service long after sports are done, because by a huge number, most of them will be finishing their athletic endeavors when they finish school here. Okay, professionally, it's not a way to get professional because the statistics don't match that. Okay, so our purpose is to help them. That's one of the reasons why we do the NCAA's ask us to. Click again, would you go? In 2003, the NCAA came out with a graduation percentage, our graduation progress activity that requires certain benchmarks to be made by each of the student athletes as they go throughout the 4 to 5 year period. And as you see, graduation rates for this set of students has raised across the country. BYU fits right into that exact same situation to where here.
That's not BYU.
Right. And BYU graduates just under that 87%, which interestingly enough is very much in line with the regular student body at the university. Okay, those are two of the reasons why we do what we do downstairs, okay, and why there's a big building down there and all those things. Most importantly, though, and I hope in listening to Vice President Tanner, and quite honestly, if you haven't read the book in parts, as you read it in parts, you can tell it's a wonderful book reminding us what our true objective here working at Brigham Young University is. One of the main reasons, the only reason we're here is the next slide, okay? And I'd like to introduce you to one of the 600 student athletes, okay? Micah Harper is from Honolulu, Hawaii. Most recently moved to Chandler, Arizona, and that's where he was recruited from Chandler, Arizona as a football player, okay? Now, the fact is you're listening to a couple of football coaches. You're listening to two football academic guys here, but the idea of the whole 600, it's the same bill, okay? I just like to introduce you to Micah Harper, okay? He comes with us. He's a minority young man, not LDS. And let me just give you a 5-minute snapshot of Micah, and you'll see why the student athlete really is the why we do it. We switch to that other part and give us that real quick, that video real quick, my man. There we go. Thanks, my man. Yeah. The only reason we wanted to introduce you to one of those student athletes, we have the pleasure of working with 600 students that by probably, I'm sure the largest percentage on campus of minority students, non-LDS students, and we do take that very, very seriously. And quite honestly, most of the student athletes that you may not even know they're in your class. Okay, because a lot most of them are wonderful students, like every other freshman in the place trying to get into the Marriott School and those type of things. Those are the students we get the opportunity to work with, and it's our pleasure to do that. At this time, I'm going to turn the time over to Jason Ayu. He's the assistant athletic director in charge of football academics, and you're going to change the subject now to us together. So thanks.
That was a great transition, Jim. Jim's like, I don't know what you're going to talk about. So I woke up this morning. I told my wife as I was getting dressed, we were both getting ready to go, hey, I'm going to have to present today to a bunch of faculty. She's like, wait, what? Aren't you freaking out? And I said, no, I don't think so. Honey, you're presenting to faculty at BYU. Why aren't you nervous? Because to me, I'm not speaking to faculty, I'm speaking to parents, mom, dad, brother, sister. I'm speaking to people that have a very concern for young men, young women in general. That's why you're here. We're obviously not here at BYU to make a ton of money, other than our football coaches that make a lot. Another subject, that's another seminar down the hall to the left. But talking about people, I was recently called as a bishop. Before that, for a family war. Before that, I was in a bishopric for 3.5 with YSA. I'm a father of 2. I have a son, Chaz, that's also just graduated from BYU. Also a football player. This is his last year. He can play. I have a daughter, beautiful, 24. She just chooses not to go to college. But we were talking about children. And I take it very seriously for me. This is my 8th year at BYU. I've been with the football program. I was a director of athletic relations at the beginning. I had no idea what that meant when I got here. I was a football coach before. I coached at Snow College. I coached at University of Utah. I coached high school. I coached my son. And then Kalani, when Kalani became the head coach, he asked me to be a part of the staff. Director of athletic relations, what does that mean? I don't know. All Kalani, the only directive Kalani gave to me was, I want you to be here for the players. I can do that. And so I started my first 4 years in academics as an academic liaison, speaking from the academic staff to the coaches. Coaches have a different language. They want different things. They're not the most easiest people to respond to. And so I was the mouthpiece between academics and the coaching staff. Did that for 4 years. Kalani comes to me and said, I want you to take over recruiting. So I went to over recruiting for 2 years, and then I was given the opportunity to work back up in academics. Let me tell you a little bit about recruiting, since I know Coach Stewart over there is part of our academic team. He was women's basketball for 11 years. Can you lift this up for this one? Mm-hmm. How many of you have kids that play sports? Are they in high school? Yeah. Do they want to play at the next level? Yeah. And so my son was very fortunate to have the opportunity to choose schools. So as a parent, we're thinking, okay, son, as we're going through these, he had opportunities to go to 30 different schools. Okay, we better start narrowing down, what is it that you're looking for in university? What are things that you guys are looking for your kids to go to choose a college? What are some things that come to your mind as a parent?
Finances.
Scholarship? Are they gonna get a scholarship or not? All right, so money. What's another thing that you're looking for, that you would look for your son or your daughter to go to school? What is it about that school that you're looking for?
Balance. So,
Okay.
yeah, like I also wanted to get a really good education.
Balance between academics.
Academics and athletics, yeah.
Yeah, academics and sorry for my chicken straps, everybody. Anything else?
Be safe? Are they gonna be taken care of?
Yeah. Taken care of. Perfect. Someone else had a hand?
It's kind of the same thing, but environment, like, what are they gonna be around those two?
What's the
Student body, what's that?
culture, right? This is a parent. All these different things that they're looking for. Safe to say? What do you think a football player? Look at that.
Here.
Scholarships.
Is it Nike? Right? Is it Nike? So you're looking at gear. NIL, big game changer. What else does anyone say?
Exposure,
Exposure,
Opportunity, what's the depth chart?
opportunity, yes, playing time. What else? Anything else?
Win.
Win. Can we win national championships? That's pretty safe. The difference between the two is academics anywhere here. To be honest, if I say there's 10 things, academics is probably here. That'd be fair to say? Where, to be honest, for a parent, some of that stuff is very important. Just on the different, those things are probably here, 6 to 10. And so just understanding why the player is here at BYU. I get really nervous and so my mouth is really dry. I'm so sorry. I think that's one thing, when you're trying to be successful as a professor, understanding what their main motivation is. We as an academic staff are trying to change that. Yes, we want all this, but this too. And it's crazy to me that a player can play in front of 65,000 the Bellevue stadiums, in front of millions, ESPN, in front of every reporter, every commentator, every coach on the sofa, and play and have no fear. Walk in, ready to compete, dominate, and it's amazing. Their transformation, I see it in the locker room, like there's zero fear. We're going in there. You walk into a class, imposter syndrome hits hard. So many of you, if you don't have student athletes, many will be, where would they sit? We tell them in Summer Bridge, in their orientation, sit in the front. Sit in the front, shake your professor's hand, get to know, don't say I'm a football player, who cares? My name is Jason Ian. Very nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to being in your class. How many of them do that?
I've had some do that.
Very good. Oh, yeah, we're doing something right. Right? So you do that, right? And so it kind of makes a difference. Have a little personal connection. We all say that. That's normal for any student, for anybody to have a little personal connection. But most of the time, our students are sitting in the very back. Sometimes with a hoodie on, with their laptop or their phone or something here. Sometimes with their iPods in their ears. And as you walk in, I'm very cognizant of the impression that that looks like for a professor. I would feel very disrespectful, very disrespected as a professor. I have a student in the back that's not even paying attention to something that I have trained on to try to teach you. Most of the time you'll see either us three or whatever, we'll peek our heads in. You know why we peek our heads in? We just want to check that they're going to class. They have a fear of going to class because there's a fear of failure. Now, we all know that the average ACT score for incoming student is what? 28, 29. Okay, GPA 3.85 or and above, right? Okay. Athletes. Let me just explain a little bit so you understand. There's 123 football players. I'll just see people on football. Is that okay? Because this is what I know, so I don't want to project it. I know what else, anything else is going on. There's 123 on a team. 85 of those are scholarship. 38 are walk-ons. Okay. Now, there's a fancy term called a PWO. Have you guys heard this term? It's called a preferred walk-on. Right. So out of these 38, we have PWOs. And really all that means is we flag their admissions. We flag their application to be an athlete. Okay. Right now on our team, out of those 38, 36 are preferred walk-ons. The other walk-ons are students that already made it into BYU on their own. They made it. They went through the normal process, weren't flagged and got into school. So 30 preferred walk-ons, which means that as an athlete, you don't have this. You're not this. The minimum is, what is it, Sandy, do you know? But the minimum ACT? Right?
16 with the rolling GPA thing for the high school.
16.
That's an exception to the rule though.
Okay. There is a minimum. I think it's 18. If you don't get an 18 and it's a 2.5 or something like that, 2.65 GPA. That's ACT. There is an exception that we are allowed to put everything on the table and beg President Worthen and the whole thing, please get this guy in. He's going to be an NFL guy. He's a difference maker on our team. We get about 2 or 3 of those a semester. Those guys are below that. Okay. And so when I talk about imposter syndrome, it's that. Our roles as staff build confidence. That they belong. That they can achieve it. You know what I'm saying? That's all we focus on, is building confidence. And what could affect them going to class? Now, before, back in the day, my thought process was, if they miss class or if they're late to class, that's not important. That means something else was important, which probably meant video games were more important, girlfriends was more important, playing with their friends more important, partying was more important than academics. That sound about right? That was the story that I created in my mind, was that's what it is. And so if we're gonna punish them, you're late, you're gonna come in at 6 a.m. You're gonna run. You're gonna run until I get tired. And that's been the normal Neanderthal way of punishment, of holding kids accountable. And the NCAA said, stop, can't do that. Can't do that, right? And so we've left with trying to hold guys accountable to have the free agency. And at the end of the day, we just want them to go to class. Pay attention, compete, don't give up, don't fail, just try. Try. Show up every day, just like you wouldn't miss a workout, don't miss class. Well, coach, I'm here to play football, I'm here to go in the NFL. Well, if you're ineligible, you ain't playing anywhere. Make sense? You can't just jump over and go right there. Yeah.
Yeah, question for you. I've had Jaron Hall and Fred Warner and many other players. And Jaron and Fred were really good students in my class. But they felt like there was a reason to come. And I was really impressed when I heard Coach Sataki give a lecture about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. He knew the literature. And I was wondering if it would help Jim or Jason if we had a quote from a coach, it doesn't have to be football, about that idea that your potential is not fixed. You can grow in this class, something that connects and helps inspire them, and lets them know just that we care
100%.
in that way. And most of our athletes are not football players, you know what I mean?
And they're not.
But I think Coach Taki really gets it, and it would be nice if you all think you have something that's inspiring for us to use, just on a slide, and just to say, I see you the first day of class. You know, I care about you.
Could I add to that quickly?
Yeah,
We're doing that with all of our students.
Yes.
Sincerely,
it would help all.
every student that is in our class.
Yep.
I'm sure that everyone in this room has had the experience of, we're just trying to help them.
Absolutely.
along. So it's really, yeah.
No, absolutely. And we appreciate it. And I'm in the process of, I'm back in school. I'm in the MBA program, just finishing my first year. I have a final tonight, managerial accounting.
So this is
Open for 2 weeks.
Give me some empathy, huh?
It was open for 2 weeks, and of course, you know, so I'm preaching to the choir. I'm in a field that's not, I mean, I'm a football guy. Managerial accounting is kicking my butt, but I'm trying to show up every day. I'm trying to be engaged in the classroom, and I feel like I can't be hypocritical or say, tell the boys to go to class. I'm not going to class. Your homework on time. I'm not doing homework on time. Doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm very empathetic because I was one of those boys that sat in the back of the class, or for whatever reason, we feel like it's not safe. And we are so intimidated. And that's so crazy to me to think that an athlete would be intimidated. But there's so, they feel so intimidated. Now, I'm not talking to everybody. You're right. We had the Jaron Halls and a thing. As a matter of fact, this last semester, we had 78 of our 122 3.0 and above.
That's awesome. That's great.
78, right? As a matter of fact, I don't know this, I can't remember the stats, but we had 10 below a 2.0. Right?
And those are the guys that we stay up at nights for, because it's the lone sheep idea.
Yeah.
Because you talk about, I'm telling you, you talk about Fred Warner, you know, that's our model guy. Because this is a summer bridge, take everything, go to spring every time. And amazingly enough, when this elite, amazing athlete finishes in December of his senior year, he's graduated as well, 7-semester guy. That's how, not 7 semester, but those are how the vast majority of the student athletes are. But there are plenty that are not prepared as well as other students to be here. And that's why we have a job.
That a lot of our players are first generation. And so it's brand new to their parents too. Their parents don't even know how to support. We've had parents who were like, no, you need to come home and watch the kids. I need you to come watch the kids. Mom, I have a final that I'm trying to prepare for. Come back here, watch the kids. And so they'll understand. So there's a lot of different challenges. I'm sure we showed Micah Harper. Every student that walks in your classroom has a story, probably similar. We talk about time management. Time is a big issue. You saw a little bit about Micah. That was in the off season. Right now, their guys are working up at 6. They got workouts at 7 to 10. Okay, then they got treatment from 10 to 12, classes 12 to whatever, and then what? And that's right now in the summer. In the season, it's a whole different ball game, right? They wake up, eat breakfast. We have our class window from 9 to 1. In between those windows of class, you got to go get treatment. Yes, which means you're nursing an injury. You got to get something going on. You go see the chiropractor, massage therapy, go get ice, whatever. Between 9 to 1. 1 o'clock starts football. 1 to 6. You got lifting. You got meetings. You got practice. After 6 o'clock, you grab dinner. By that time, from 7 to whatever you're supposed to study. It's exhausting. And so that's why we have study hall. We're trying to punch these guys like you could do it. I'm a firm believer of how you do one thing, you do all things. Fred Warner is a great example. Taysom Hill, another great example. How he does one thing is how he does everything. We're trying to teach that to the rest of student athletes. You can't be excellent. If you're excellent on the football field, excellent in the weight room, you can be excellent in the classroom. Now that excellence is not always a 4.0 or a 3.5 or a 3.0. It may be a 2.2. For these guys, I'll take a 2.2 all day long, every day. Same. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that was any, I don't know how much time I have left. There's probably a couple of minutes. Do you have any, Michaela, you've been a wonderful instrument for us.
I have an instrument. I have a couple of questions too, but can I just point out the guy with the 18 ACT is a spatial genius. There's other forms of intelligence. I am scared to walk down the stairs because I don't understand space well enough to understand how my foot is hitting the stairs. But they're spatial geniuses. And so I find that it can be really useful to convince, wait, you are smart in these ways. We're just going to translate them. They're not good spatially, they're geniuses.
Yeah, no. I mean, a lot of them are very technical. So if you break it down to football terms, and if you coach them, right? And that's what we are changing I found as a coach, as I've evolved, that I used to have a one way of coaching. This is the way, my way, the highway. If you don't get it, step aside. And this generation is a little bit different. They're going to ask the whys and how come I'm doing this? And go ahead.
We're familiar with our relationships with the student athletes. What are they saying to you that they wish we did differently?
That's a great question.
Well, no, it is a great question because quite honestly, they talk with each other. They talk with each other and the professors who, easy is the wrong term because that doesn't happen at BYU. The professors who who have a personal, have somehow that have a personal relationship with them, those are the ones the kids want to take. I mean, it's not, I mean, Jay and I go back way since we were kids. So, I mean, I'm telling my guys, hey, I grew up with Dr. J. I did. You will be well taken care of if you take some type of American history class from Dr. Buckley. You know, they know that because that's coming from me and I know you, that's how you treat all your students. That's the word to get. That's the word that gets around. And then we start all that stuff and all of a sudden, okay, what's available? Because women's volleyball only has this during the middle of the day. Okay, football, we get 9 to 12:50, blah, blah, blah. These teams are, and so boy, that chess match, that jigsaw puzzle of fitting, you know, students that have the interest and know that they'll be taken care of. That's the difficulty that we face. The way that I'm telling you, you do what you do because the kids do understand. They do, and I'm sure it's with all students. but especially with the student athletes, because it's such a tight knit group, they know, they are the best cheerleaders for the professors on campus.
Can I follow up on that
Very
scheduling
much
thing
so.
with a question on how to help students? One of the things that I'll see with some student athletes is that they're late into a major they don't actually like that much. And it's the 20, 40, 60, you can't change it. The student athletes cannot change majors or they're behind NCAA markers for their progress through their degree and they're not eligible. And then sometimes they got into certain majors because of matching and things like that. So how can we better help them get something out of these programs that are not really what their dream was?
Praise this college right here, and I mean that FHSS has a large selection of majors that are not LIP, that are not limited. Okay, and I mean that, I mean that because it gives a student who may not have this as their highest priority, but it gives them ideas, opportunities of something that may fit. Boy, but like I said, Sister Michaela, Sandy's job may be the hardest one of all of them, is we're trying to get kids, we try to get them to pick their majors in the second semester. You know, so is every other 35,400 students here, you know, and all those freshmen, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to business. Oh yes, I'm gonna go to this. And so it's not uncommon, because the things that you're talking about really are the exceptions to the bigger rule, but they are the ones where the more different type of support is needed. And I'm sure that's why, to me, it seemed like the exact crux of a discussion like today is taking place. Because I wish there was an easy answer.
No, and there is some, I mean, eligibility is a big deal, right? And so you see people flip into different majors, most likely because of eligibility issues. We try to, as a staff, give personality tests, give career placement type, exams to kind of help them figure out which way they go. Because I'm only gonna speak for myself. I just did business when I was a high school kid because it just sounded right. I had no idea really what I wanted to get into until I got into college. And a lot of these players are thinking the same way.
It's the same as the non-athletes.
Yeah, they're just like, I don't know.
Non-athletes can take 8 years to graduate,
Yeah, they
and
can.
the athletes just get
But a lot of them
stuck.
don't decide to. do it.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they're.
So I guess like one of the things I'm wondering for when we have, so it sounds, I mean, that's great. There's a lot of different supports for them and I'm just thinking of like when, I've had both the students that are sort of like just like really sort of eager, and I've also had students who maybe are sort of like in the back and then people in between. And I'm just thinking, especially what you were talking about, this maybe reframing it as like, like they're scared of failure, or they're like thinking about maybe they're more intimidated or something. So I guess one of the things I'm thinking about is if I notice a student isn't coming or if they haven't turned anything, like I'll try to personally reach out. But I'm not trying to do this in a way of like tattling by any means, but like, is there a person, like if we notice something that we could talk to, that like behind the scenes, someone else could be like, don't tell me this, but like, can you just check in with the student? I haven't heard from them. Like, who would that person be for us, or how would we go about that?
Football is us. Olympic sports has a whole nother staff that's dedicated. Just so you understand, we check grades every week. We check, you pull your learning suite, Canvas, we check missing assignments, the coaches get a report, we make a report, we make a lot of calls, but reaching out is that, hey, you can still do this. It is so big to our players. And sometimes when you dig yourself a hole, you're in a fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, there's no way, I'm done, I'm out. I'm just gonna quit and go focus on training. But just letting them know, like, no, it's not over. I need you to, to help. And I know it's hard because a lot of you, we have this, we want to treat everybody fair and equal. And for the most part, players want to be treated fair and equal as well. But just understanding a little bit of the dynamic of what's going on there. And go ahead, Sandy.
I would say, don't ever be afraid to reach out to one of us, like Natalie.
We're not coaches. No, that's a worry. That's a
Yeah.
work
True,
group.
that's true.
Because
We
won't
don't
hang
affect
them
your
up.
playing time.
We won't hang them
I
up.
mean, so.
Yeah, but that, I mean, getting that feedback is so helpful for us to be able to reach out to the student and, you know, just say, it looks like you're struggling here. What can we do to help? How we can, you know, best support them. And because all we see is grades, you know, and we check classes attendance, but, you know, we're not there in class seeing if they're engaged or not. And so that's really helpful.
At some point,
Extremely helpful.
at some point, you're gonna see one of three bald men. In your.
We try to be very secretive.
Look forward to that.
Sometimes we're like, where are those kids sitting at?
With Dr. Buckley, I hesitate sticking it. Jim, come on in. Remember Berkeley Valley? I mean, my goodness. but hey, I'm okay with that too.
Well, our time is up. You have one last one.
You said that some of the students, when they talk, they say these faculty members are better with student athletes than other faculty members. Outside of me saying, instead of Professor Olson, I'm Coach Olson, what are the characteristics or what are the things the students are looking for in terms of that support?
Gosh, that is a great question. Sandy, you start on the answer to that, would you?
I didn't hear what that.
Characteristics of teachers that student
Oh.
athletes gravitate toward.
I think just ones that understand, you know, what a day in the life of an athlete is. I mean, that was really neat to see kind of what Micah goes through, but they have so many demands. And I think so many people just don't really understand, you know, they're expected to do, you know, interviews with people and community service, and they always have someone asking them for something. And so just understanding, you know, all the time demands and I would say that's.
I don't, from experience, I don't believe the student athletes are scared of hard work. Okay, they're not. Some may fish around for less demanding classes, possibly, but that's not really the driving force. It's the ones that they feel they can connect with somehow. And it may get to the point where two of our quote high-risk students are end up unfortunately not being able to actually go through it, but presenting at conferences with one of you folks right here. I have to tell that story.
Passports.
I have to tell that story about Sister Michaela. Okay, because I mean, I have I'm the old geezer here who was Gennaro's academic advisor, for goodness sakes, you know, and Michaela immediately goes like this because Gennaro, quite honestly, came in as a high risk, okay, non-LDS minority out of here, not a high GPA, and he still talks about his teacher. He still does. And somewhere, one of you has that, because not all personalities fit every kid. Okay, Micah Harper, he's a different guy than is Joe Tukwafu. Okay? They're different guys, but somewhere your personality fits with one of those student athletes. And we can say the exact same thing about the other students. We just happen to get the luxury of, throw that last slide. We just happen to get the luxury of working with 600 of the unique ones.
Thank you so much.